Okay, I think we're live. Hi. Hello to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube Live. Welcome. Welcome to Career Stories with Jo McCaddy. I'm the founder of Protoscience. I love helping people with their next career destination, and I feel that sharing career stories within the HR and recruitment sector is quite important because we come from different kinds of backgrounds and we end up in wonderful roles. And I've got a very exciting person to interview today, John Rowlands. He's going to give an introduction about himself. We actually met at TRS Staffing Solutions, which is a place that I felt like I had the most growth in recruiting after I had left the scientific recruiting role. And I embarked on a new journey into the engineering space. And in fact, 𝗵𝗂𝗃 had hired me when I was expecting my first child. And he saw something in me and allowed me to run the scientific desk. And it was so much fun. We made a lot of cash for the business, I have to say. And this is where I met John as I was tailing towards the end of my tenure there. So without further ado, I'm really excited to be introducing John Rowlands, heading up TRS Staffing Solutions for Spain and Mexico. Over to you, John.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm the only Spanish-speaking sort of management employee. So they've given me the two countries in two totally different time zones. So I managed to sort of get a couple of hours sleep on an early morning. That's about it. How are you anyway, Jo?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, but I mean, I think you wanted to know how I sort of fell into recruitment and so on, because when we were sort of entering into the market, no one went to university saying, I want to be a recruitment consultant or studying HR and psychology and things like that people study now. So I was a biologist and came out of university and got a job working as a pharmaceutical rep. But I was atrocious. I was awful. I was 22 years old trying to sell hormone replacement therapy to old ladies and nurses and stuff. I was completely lost. So I got sacked after 6 months, and then that was through an agency. So then I went to another agency, and they got me another job as a pharmaceutical rep, and I got sacked from that one after 3 months. So that was good. And then I went to another agency looking, and the agency just turned and said, look, you're really, really good at interview, but rubbish at selling pharmaceuticals. So why don't you stay with us and just talk to clients? And that's how I fell into recruitment. It was something that I never wanted to do, but it paid really well at the time. And it was a job I managed to keep. So yeah, that's how I fell into it.
I like that story. So tell us a little bit about the role that you're actually playing right now at TRS. Okay. What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, I came over here in Spain in 2004, opened up TRS Spain, and I'm very fortunate. I mean, I've been here, 17 years, and I still have half of my team actually helps me open it up. And that's sort of really unheard of, especially, in our generation where, churn was sort of every 2 years, and you never retired in the company that you opened, and that's the way it's going. And then as the markets have sort of peaked and troughed, I've had offices in Barcelona, which I had to close, unfortunately, and I'm now have an office in Mexico, which is great fun. Great fun. It's the challenge of learning, and learning. I mean, it's a different type of Spanish, because when you translate English into Spanish, you're really rude to start off with. And then when you translate Castellano Spanish into Mexican, you're really, really rude. So I've had to have this sort of brain filter, making sure I don't speak what I'm thinking. So it's a real learning sort of journey. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you can speak that language, and you learned how to speak it when you joined TRS or before that? What's the story behind that? Just quickly.
Oh no, I'm gonna get sacked now.
I hope you don't.
I lied at my interview. I was asked if I spoke Spanish. I said, yeah, of course I do. And there was no one in the company who spoke Spanish to test me. So I was basically asked to say 3 words. So I said, contrato por obra. I remember this so vividly. And the person who interviewed me, Alan White, he turned and said, yeah, I've heard of that. Okay, that's fine. You speak Spanish. And that was it. So when I came over here, the first person I contracted was a lady called Cristina Montessarin, who was bilingual, and she covered for me. She wrote all my emails for a good 6 months while I learned in a rush Spanish. So yeah.
That's a smart move, very strategic,
so,
very Richard
yeah,
Branson.
Martin,
Say yes to the role and then learn what
Martin,
you
if
need
you're
to do
listening to
later.
this, I apologise.
But it's worked out well. 17 years tenure. That's amazing. And what about TRS Staffing Solutions? Tell the viewers, you know, who are you? What do you do as a business?
Yeah, I mean, the business has changed a lot since I joined. When, well, you remember when you know, we first joined, basically TRS supplied contractors to their parent company Fluor, and that was it. But I would say now Fluor is probably 20–30% of the business, and everything else now is external. There's still an emphasis on engineering, oil and gas engineering, but every office has its different specialty. Australia, for example, is mining. Here we're actually these days IT. We used to be engineering, but with COVID and the change in the industry over the last year, we've had to move into the IT industry because everyone's working from home, and Spain really wasn't set up for it. Yeah, but you know, we have offices in Canada, US, Mexico is oil and gas. But subcontracting has just been made illegal in Mexico 2–3 months ago. So we're having to change the business structure over there as well now into more of a headhunting consultancy. And that's what makes it exciting, because you know you change with the markets. The markets are changing so quickly now that you never stop learning. Such
a versatile business. Wonderful. Now, let's switch it back to you. Thank you for explaining all of that. Really exciting and interesting. So what would you consider to be your defining moments if you reflect back on your career journey?
I mean, there have been a few, and I've had some wonderful managers. I've had some awful ones. I had one guy who was completely bipolar, and he was mad as a hatter. But I think the real defining moment was when I was. Am I allowed to mention company names? Oh, it's on my CV. I was in Austin, Ben, and it was a terrible environment. And it was 180 phone calls a day, 2.5 minutes per phone call. You had areas you were allowed in at different times. It was awful. But I found out that this was back in 1994, 1995. You know, it's before email. We had pieces of card with adverts and stuff like that we cut out of the Evening Standard at 6 in the morning. A terrible, awful job. But I found out that the recruitment industry was just sort of growing and starting, especially IT recruitment. And if you phoned up an IT agency, they would take anyone with any sales experience. And so I sort of started up this recruitment to recruitment arm, and I could hit all my targets in a morning, basically. So I think that was my defining moment, because all of a sudden I found a market and then got headhunted by one of these IT companies. You literally weren't allowed to leave your desk when I was working there. And this you know, the managing director of the company I was talking to, BCL, wonderful guy, Richard, really, he taught me a lot. He said, well, let's meet up, John. And I went, oh, I'm not allowed to leave my desk. He was like, seriously? So yeah. He says, all right, well, I'll just offer you a job, start on Monday. And that was a really defining moment, because I joined them. Yeah, just like that. And I just said yes, because I was fed up where I was. And it was that was the defining moment. And I was there 5 years, and I learned a lot with them, grew as a person, and made a lot of friends. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So would you consider so would you have considered him your mentor or your coach, you know, someone that helped you be successful?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very much so. And I still talk to him. Yeah, and you know, I spoke to him through LinkedIn maybe a month ago, and we were just talking about management styles and stuff like that, and we still talk.
You can do a shout out to him if you want.
Yeah. Richard, thank you. Richard Manville, I know you are.
There you go. So now, defining moments, moving on to what would you consider to be your achievements if you reflect on your journey? You know, 17 years at TRS Staffing Solutions is an achievement. Having the same team is also an achievement in an agency environment.
I was going to say that, actually. You know, I've got outside here people who've been with me for 15 years. I mean, it's not been an easy route with COVID. I had to dismiss someone who'd been with me as well for 15 years. And that's difficult, because, you know, you always say that the business relationships doesn't turn into friendships, but they do. They most definitely do. And especially in a small office, when you know everyone's life and what they're going through, and, you know, whether they're getting divorced, getting married, having children, whether someone in the family is ill or whatever. That's, you know, and so, yeah, I think my biggest achievement is providing a stable environment here during quite torrid times. From 2004 to now, we've gone through COVID, we've gone through the Spanish recession, which was huge. The biggest one since the Spanish Civil War. We've gone through the legislation changes and so on, and we're still here. So we're holding on. So
still here, smiling.
Achievement.
Yeah,
keeping the team together.
That's amazing. And so you must have a very good leadership style to have the same team members. That's awesome. Yeah, they may say otherwise.
The secret is actually, this is the secret. But I interview on character. It's so easy to go through people's CVs and interview where have you worked, what have you done, what competencies. You can train in all that. You can put people in this. Recruitment isn't difficult. All right, okay, it's just knowing what your client wants and trying to match that up. So there's no secret to it. But putting together a team in a small office, that is difficult. So you have to have different people with different characters, and that way they don't end up hating each other or fighting or competing, or so you'd have the quiet person next to the noisy person, you'd have the introvert, the extrovert, and so on. Yeah.
Okay, so you know how to have a good team makeup. So based on instinct, your own experiences, and character.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, reflecting on your life, what do you feel has shaped you in terms of the ups and the downs that have occurred, and how they've impacted your professional life, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, in the personal life, it's very easy to focus on the negatives. I've been divorced. I've moved country, but there are also these positives as well. I moved country. I have a child. So it's. I think. I think. I mean, you're a coach, so you'll understand this better than anyone. I think you can't be afraid of these problems that you will hit, and it's very easy to become very scared. And these days, there's lots of support. There are psychologists, there are coaches, there are people who can take an outside view of your life. But I think as well, people are actually afraid to go to them because they feel stupid. And I went to a psychologist because changing country is difficult, and I've been to one as well during my divorce, just so I could take a step back. And and I think what that did was it taught me actually that I'm quite self-reliant. And that I don't have to be afraid of change, and I don't have to be afraid of what's around the corner, because we can adapt. And I think that's what it is. And especially as you get older, you sort of think, oh, I mean, I'm going to enter my 50s this year. Can't believe it. I'm entering my 50s this year.
Hint.
And
yes.
It's difficult. And over here, it's difficult to get a job when you're in your 50s. But then you think, okay, that just gives me another opportunity. I'll go to Mexico, or I'll go to the US, or I'll go to Australia. I'll change my life again. And it could be fun.
So, yeah, I really resonate with what you're sharing. So one of the top human needs is actually certainty. And when we are faced with uncertainty, that's when we feel quite challenged and we feel quite fearful. So what you're suggesting is actually leaning into that and using that as leverage for the decisions that you've made, and looking at the hardships, if you like, as opportunities for growth. Excellent. Exactly. And having a coach to support you along the way, that also helps just, edge more forward or go further faster, that 2 millimeters. Yeah. So,
and don't be afraid of seeking. Yeah. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Excellent. Good advice. Very good advice. So the inspiration to working or starting with TRS Staffing Solutions. I mean, you told us a little bit of a snapshot about how you got into it. You faked it until you made it, literally. And you've been in the business for some time. So I'm sure you've come across many things that have challenged you in a positive way. Obviously you're still there. You've got a lot of growth, because as humans, we tend to want to continue on the growth journey within our career, within our vocation, and that translates into life. So, what inspired you to join and stay?
Joining was it was an event. Basically, I was working in a company called Camco, and I was headhunted. Well, I wasn't headhunted. One of my colleagues was headhunted, and the call got passed through to me. So, the headhunter was just like, please don't call here again. Don't steal my staff. unless you've got something interesting in Spain, because my ex-wife at the time was Spanish. And he just replied back, Richard, and said, yes, I do have something. I was like, oh, okay, I'm listening. And that's how I sort of fell into TRS. It was a sort of just one of these accidental events that happens. And you sort of went home and spoke to my wife and said, listen, you know, I've got an opportunity to work in Spain. What do you think? She was supportive at the time. And then Martin, my boss now, he asked for references from a competitor, 𝗓𝗏. And 𝗓𝗏 phoned up the managing director of 𝗃𝗵𝗀 and said, just so you should be aware, John is leaving your company. And of course, yeah, I know. And so, of course, by the time, you know, Martin Smith, the manager of 𝗃𝗵𝗀, drove from Hull to Stevenage to sack me for being unloyal. You know, obviously I had no choice then but to join TRS. So I was like, okay, we're having to go for it. I'm going for it. I'm booking my EasyJet flight. I'm flying out to Madrid. And being honest, I was so pleasantly surprised because I arrived in Madrid. I had no support. I had a contact basically in the British Chamber of Commerce who introduced me to a bank and introduced me to a lawyer, and that was it. And TRS, you know, obviously did the credit checks and so on me, and opened up a bank account and put €500,000 in it, and just said, build a business.
There you are.
And they trusted me, and you know, there was oversight, obviously, but they let me get on with it and build it. And it wasn't really until October that I had to justify, and this was in June. It wasn't until October when I had the company built and had all the paperwork done and the employees in place and we started trading that I actually had to describe what I'd done and get everything signed off. And I wasn't used to that level of trust. No one had ever really trusted me. And I just thought, well, anyone that trusts me that much, I have to trust them. And you know, as we've played through the time, I've been given so much opportunity with TRS. You know, they've let me for business go to Equatorial Guinea, Angola, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. They put me in the EMEA sales lead role for a while, so I could get some really good sales experience and meet really interesting characters and people. And yeah, that would never have happened in the traditional UK London-based agency.
This is true.
Whereas TRS give you this opportunity to grow and, you know, open Mexico from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah. So
amazing. Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense why you've joined and why you stayed. And yeah, shout out to the whole team, you know, Martin, Mike, Owen that used to be there, Chirag and Andy. Who else is there? Who are we missing?
This is something as well. You know, Andy's still there. Mike is still there. They both trained me up. They were team leaders. And now Andy is the manager for the US. And Mike is UK, India, and the Middle East. You know, all these.
Amazing.
Dennis Hatton. Dennis is still there.
Yes, Dennis. Shout out to Dennis.
in Holland, Germany, and Belgium. And of course, when I met him, he was a manager in Harlem. You know, so all these people are. Yeah, they're still there, still battling away. And it's a good sign when a company invests and keeps its key staff.
Absolutely. So the leadership culture is, I guess, one of support and mentorship to enable each other to be successful. What a wonderful group. That's amazing.
Glenn, Nicholas up in Aberdeen, you know, they were the people that took me out to Equatorial Guinea back in 2006, 2007. So yeah, it's just, yeah.
That is quite special. It's nice to be a TRS alumni.
Yeah, it is.
Did you say you're out in Australia? Yeah. A reunion would be good.
No one leaves.
So this one is a question you can choose to answer or not. What do you feel were the sacrifices that you made along the way?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I think we've talked about this before, and a sacrifice is such a negative word.
It is.
It's, you know, are there things I would change in the past? Yeah, of course. You know, I might have been a slightly better pharmaceutical salesperson. You know?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. I was 21, 22, and they gave me a car and told me to work from home, and I'd never worked before. What do they expect, honestly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I made decisions. 2019, for example, I was over 100 days in Mexico, you know, living in a hotel. Now, I didn't have to. I could have turned around and said, no, enough is enough. Was it a sacrifice? Not really, because you know, it was enjoyable, and you know, your conditions when you're traveling are always good. TRS will always look after you, even, you know, even if you become sick or whatever. And you know, what I was doing out there was interesting. You know, we were taking new offices. We were sorting out some problems with finance. We were sorting out some legal issues. Again, so I was learning and enjoying it. I don't think it's such a sacrifice for me. I think it's more of a sacrifice for maybe your partner or your husband or wife or your child, you know, because you miss things. I think it's more of a sacrifice for them. But it's also a good lesson for my son. To get anywhere, you do have to make these decisions. And he's left the country. He's left Spain now. I'm very proud of him, because he was born in Spain, brought up in Spain, lived in Spain, and now he's studying astrophysics in Aberystwyth in Wales.
Amazing.
So, you know, yeah, he's done well. If my dad can travel, I'm traveling. So yeah,
that's brilliant. Because you're originally from there, right? From Wales.
Aberystwyth? No, well, it's a top secret. I'm Welsh.
Oh, sorry. Was I not meant to say?
I was born in Middlesbrough.
There you go. Now everyone's going to know.
I was primitive. My mum was driving through. I wasn't due. I popped out. Okay, so but I am Welsh. And then we went to Cardiff afterwards.
There we are. No. Okay. Yeah, you must be very proud of your son.
It is interesting, because I was talking to him. Why did you choose Aberystwyth? Because, you know, I'd never spoken to him about it, and you know, he told me because of the course and because the place is nice and so on. But it's where I used to go for my summers, because my grandparents are from there. So it was really coincidental.
It is
just a coincidence. Yeah, my dad was born there. Yeah,
there's something that drew him to there. Wow. So, what are the wonderful things that TRS Spain and Mexico are working on right now in 2021 and beyond?
And beyond, yeah. I mean, there's a few things. Mexico, if I mention there first, with the law change, we're having to change completely the way we work, and it's literally over a 2-month period. Basically, what's happened is the president has turned around and said, okay, you can't subcontract. There's no agency business. You have to employ people. So of course we've become so we've gone from 600-700 contractors we had out working there in the oil and gas industry, and we're having to hand them all over back to our clients and say, okay, you know, you either pay them or you lose them. They have to go off our payroll. So we're changing the business into becoming a headhunting business. Now that means restructuring the office, you know, because we're not going to have the salary burden that we had before. Restructuring our marketing, changing the way we work, and of course Mexico is still suffering under COVID, and so the office isn't open. People are still working from home and doing all this by telephone, and remote working. It's a very difficult environment, and there's no point in me flying out there to help, because I've got no central points to meet them. I'd have to be going around everyone's houses and knocking on the doors. You know? So there's just no point in me being there at the moment. So it's a challenging environment now, but we're going ahead. And being honest, I think the business looks very good for us there, because we are so specialist, and clients are coming to us saying, look, we're losing this service. What can you do to help us and support us? So we're changing the business a bit there.
Yeah, wow. So, and you've had to do that several times over the years?
Yeah, because the market's changed and shifted. So I mean, one of the things here in Spain at the moment is we have more IT contractors now than we do engineering contractors, and we opened up as an engineering consultancy. So it's just shift in the market. But at the moment, what's big here in Spain, the engineering in Spain is dead. I shouldn't say that. My wife works for 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗃, but it's not going well. Okay, and there's been a lot of what they call 𝗟𝗏𝗘s, which are sort of temporary redundancies, lots of 𝗟𝗏s, which are true redundancies, where most of the engineering companies here have stripped 50% of their workforce out, and they're unemployed. So what we've had to do here is actually take a look at these people, take a look at their strengths and their language skills, and sell them overseas. So I've got Spanish people at the moment in Denmark, Germany, Belgium, France, the Middle East, Kuwait, Mexico. We're taking these people and actually selling their skills overseas, and that's a very difficult way to sell, because your client base is so wide and so dispersed. You really have to make sure you know what client you're talking to and why you're talking to them. Otherwise, you can end up very much with a sort of a shotgun approach, and you become unfocused. So rather than the clients being the important person, now it's the candidate, and asking them where would they like to work, what type of project would they like, where would they be willing to travel to? Yeah, so the approach has become different.
That sounds like a very coaching style, career coaching people. Let's look at your transferable skills. Let's see where else we can utilize them, and you're supporting them to be able to do that. Wow, game changing, I have to say.
There are also some market shifts thanks to Tesla and people like that now. Mining's coming back, that, based in Australia. But some of the old European mines that were completely uncompetitive are now profit making. So, for example, we're working at the moment on opening a mine in Portugal. So that's quite exciting.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so that leads me to the next question then. Hiring needs, what kind of candidates do you require? Like, what are the roles that you're sourcing for your clients?
Yeah, lots of IT roles.
Mm-hmm.
We're okay. So I'm not allowed to mention, I don't think, but they're big, and they subcontract basically. So people like the Andalus government uses them for their services, and we supply the contractors in there. So anyone with IT skills, brilliant. Language skills are really, really important. And over here in Spain, English is abysmal. It's really not good. So I'm sorry. So it's if you're putting people on English courses and stuff like that to try and get them to be able to move around is one of the challenges we have here. Yeah.
Wow.
And oil and gas is decline, and mining's on the up. Yeah.
So switching again. Okay. So I wanted to just ask you now, in terms of all the things that you've shared, and whoever watches it on replay, whoever's joined us today, when you're reflecting on your career, what advice would you give to others? If you reflect on the successes that you had, the achievements, defining moments, everything that you've just, articulated to us. Any advice?
Yeah, I think it's this thing about change. We're always changing, and people hate it, or some people do. And it's, for example, I've got a couple of millennials in this office, and listening to the way they communicate and the way they talk, and just the way I communicate with them, I'm having to change. Just basic communication skills, I'm having to change. Their ambitions are completely different to what our ambitions were. We can't talk about money. Oh God, no, that's a dirty word. You can't talk about profit or commissions or whatever. You now have to talk about career structure, and ambition and things like that. It's a totally different conversation than, say, sort of 10 years ago. So don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of the new generation coming in. Don't be afraid of technology, and don't be afraid to ask for support. I think people are, especially if they're in a position where they're a manager or whatever, they feel that they have to come up with the solutions to everything. And this is a conversation we had the other day as well. I still feel like that 22-year-old who was completely lost in recruitment. It's just, I just got a bigger bookshelf with more training material. It's just, and I'm not inventing anything or discovering anything. What I'm doing is learning from the people around me and say, that's a good idea. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's what it is.
That's great advice. And I have to agree with you. The learning never stops. And whether it's someone more senior to you or someone that's up and coming, everyone has something to teach, and everyone has something to learn. And doing it with a mentor or a coach to help you along the way, it's testament to success. And, going back on how you've reflected on, being in a business for so long, it's the cohort you've had around you to support you and nudge you along the way. I'm sure you've had some trials and tribulations, some of which you cannot share, when it comes to business and having to make changes according to market conditions. And really enjoyed hearing everything that you had articulated about your career journey. And I just wanted to close off the session and say thank you so much. It's been wonderful reconnecting and now reminiscing about my time at Tierra Staffing Solutions. I would love to connect with the others and perhaps do a virtual reunion and check in with everyone to see how they're all going.
Open up a bottle of virtual Chianti.
Why not?
Just before you go, because you mentioned something which was interesting, if you don't mind me sort of jumping in.
Yeah.
Mentoring. Companies have these mentoring programs and so on, and so many of them make the same mistake. Your mentor should never be your boss. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, your mentor shouldn't even be in the same department or having the same business. Your mentor should be someone from out there, because otherwise you're never going to learn anything.
This is
true. You're going to follow the company line and do what your mentor stroke boss says.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I'll do a shout out. If you are looking for a coach, I am taking on more clients at the moment, both in a one-to-one capacity and in a group coaching setting. I'm going to take on a cohort of people in the next couple of weeks to take them through the 7-step strategy that I have invented from my tenure within recruitment. And having worked internally in organizations, I've seen a common theme that has come up. And it is quite important to find a career coach or a mentor or someone that can guide you, someone that can give you an objective view about whatever it is that you have as a blocker right now. We all want to grow and do more. And there's sometimes, we just need someone else to unlock what it is that we've already got within us. And so whoever is up for it, I am taking on more coaching clients. Now, thank you so much once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Let us know what the weather is in Madrid, just so we know over here in Melbourne. It's been chilly. It's winter time. What's it like over there?
30 degrees centigrade and sunny. So I will be having my lunch outside, my 3-course meal. €12, so that's what, £10. I don't know what that is in Australian dollars. 3-course meal, glass of wine. It's rough here. It's terrible.
Very jelly over here. Yeah, would like to be in Europe right now, but that's okay. One day we'll be able to travel again. So the next stop that we're heading to is Switzerland next week. So stay tuned for that. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Signing off. Take care and stay safe. Cheers.
You too.